So my first observation was with Miss Rachel. It was a kindergarten classroom and it had 15 students and one teacher. Um, Her classroom was awesome. I loved it. Whenever I walked in, all of the students were sitting on a carpet, and they were going over the alphabet. And their letter of the week was G, so they were going over what G sounded like and words that had G in it or started with G. Um, each student had a letter, and they took turns putting the letters in order as to what the alphabet says they should be. And I really liked this. It implemented teamwork, so that was my glow for Miss Rachel, was that she was a team player, and you could really tell that through all of her activities in her class. Miss Rachel had a clip up, clip down system in her classroom, and she didn't really enforce it whenever students behaved or misbehaved. There were several times where students disrupted her or another student, and they could have been clipped down for it, but they weren't. And she even looked at me and she was like, should I clip them down? No, I won't clip them down this time. And I think that just tells the students that they can get away with it if they want to. And so I think that was my grow, was that she needs to enforce that clip up, clip down system if she's going to have that in her classroom. But overall, she was a great teacher. My next observation was also at Mount Vernon Elementary School, and it was with Miss Betsy. She was a first grade teacher, and she had 13 students. This, honestly, by far was my favorite teacher. My favorite observation that I did during the semester. She was a great woman. I walked in and she introduced me to herself. I introduced myself, and then she got the class to come and introduce themselves to me. So that was really sweet. I loved that. She told me that she was battling lymphoma and that she had been through treatments and she was still teaching. And to me, that was incredible. It was like, I mean, how does a person, if they're so tired and so exhausted and they're hurting, they come and they work with a bunch of little children and the students of hers. And they were so sweet too. They each had respect for each other. They were like a big family in there. And that was my glow for Miss Betsy, was that she was so sweet. And it was definitely like a family atmosphere in her classroom. Honestly, I did not have a grow for her. She was incredible throughout the whole time I was in there, and I didn't want to leave because it was so nice to be in that class. My next observation was with Miss Jen, and she was a second grade teacher. She had 15 students. When I walked in, I was so surprised by how clean and organized her class was. To have second graders, and most of the time they don't have much sense of, I don't want to say respect, but respect for others' belongings, I guess. So it was so surprising that her room was so clean. It was clean, but it was also very quiet. So that's my glow and grow. My glow is that it was very organized, and I think that needs to be a big thing with every teacher. They need to stay organized so that they know what they're doing throughout the day. And she did have a schedule on the wall that told the students exactly what they were doing every hour of the day. But my grow for her would be to allow the students to communicate more with their peers, because they did not at all while I was in there. The whole hour they were sitting at their desk doing their work, and they couldn't talk. They were not talking whatsoever. She was a big rule follower, and she told the students, she said, if you're responsible, you can use it, meaning they had iPads and computers, and she had a library in her class, and she told them that if they were responsible, then they could use it, but as soon as they were irresponsible, then their privilege was taken away. And honestly, I liked that. It told the students that they need to take care of their belongings and other people's, and I think that's another reason why her room was so clean, because she implemented responsibility in her class. Next one was 3rd grade with Miss Irish. She had 15 students, and she had the oldest building, or the oldest classroom, I think, at Mount Vernon Elementary. My glow for her was that she was so well organized. For having such a small classroom, it's hard to keep everything spiffy and looking nice, but she did it. And she took advantage of her small room, and she made it a one-way street for her students. That's what she called it, a one-way street, meaning that students couldn't walk like this. It was all in a circle, her whole classroom. Every student walked in a certain way, and that's how they got to their desk. That's how they turned in work, was the one-way street. I really liked that. She was very organized and clean, and she had that one-way street. My grow for her, I think, was that she needed to allow her students to get up and, I guess, take a break from their work, because they were working the first minute I got in there for a whole hour, and then after I left, I think they were still working. So it's just a lot of work for them to do and just sit there for so long, such a long period of time. If they were taking a test or something, I would understand, but it was just a worksheet and they weren't even allowed to whisper. So, and they were doing math at the time, and I know that I always struggle with math, and I think it's a hard subject for the students to learn. So if they have a question, then they should be able to ask either a peer or ask Miss Irish. But she didn't really allow that, I guess. So that was definitely my grow for her, was to let them talk a little bit at least. My next observation was at Frank Mitchell Intermediate School in Bologna, and it was with Miss Norwood and Reapy. This was a self-contained classroom, and they had, for the majority of the time, it was 2 teachers to 5 students. And there was one teacher that had a student who was severely disabled that they just came in and out every once in a while. They were very, very nice, and their students were so respectful. It was a casual classroom, very laid back, and I really liked that, because I don't think those students need to be put under a lot of pressure. A little pressure is okay, which they did do some activities where it did put them under a little bit of pressure, but too much, I think, would kind of set them back a little bit. So I like that it was so laid back. They had talkers and a smart board that they worked with the most, and it's not a lot, it's not as much technology, assistive technology, that I thought that they would use, but they used it to their advantage, and they used it all the time. The whole time I was in there, they were on the smart board, and each student had a talker if they weren't verbally able to talk. That was my glow, was that it was so casual and laid back, but still a educational environment for the students to learn in. I think my grow, I'm not sure that I have a grow for the classroom, but for Bologna schools in general, I think that these students need more. They just need more. They aren't given enough space. They aren't given enough time for activities that they need throughout the day, and they don't have enough tools to use for them to learn. There are regular classrooms that have more assistive technology than self-contained classrooms from what I saw in my hour, and I think that's ridiculous. Honestly, if these students struggle more learning, then they need to have more to help them. I didn't have a grow for the teachers specifically, but for Bologna schools, that would be it. My next observation was also at Frank Mitchell Intermediate School, and it was with Miss Vaughan and Miss Brewer, and this was a co-taught class. They had 22 students for the two teachers that were in there, and Miss Vaughan would take students out at a time, like one or two at a time, to help them one-on-one specifically learn. My glow for Miss Brewer was that it was very comfortable, and she did make her students feel comfortable, which I loved, and it was a math class that I was in, so I think that's needed. It needs to be comfortable, and she allowed her students to talk to each other and figure stuff out for themselves before they came and asked her, which I really liked. It showed a lot of teamwork. My glow for Miss Brewer, though, was that she sat at her desk the whole time I was in there, the whole hour. She didn't get up and walk around. She didn't answer any students' questions, and I'm not really sure if she had told them that before they started working that she wasn't going to help, but she sat at her desk and didn't do anything the whole hour. So I think she definitely needs to teach and walk around her classroom and help her students as needed. The next one was a GT classroom. It was 6th grade with Miss Bagwell, and she had 26 students. Through the first 5 minutes I was in there, she explained to me that these students have been together since they were in elementary school, and that there was one student in there that skipped 2 grades. She went from being a 4th grader to a 6th grader in 1 year, and I thought that was incredible. They acted like a big family in there. They were like brothers and sisters, and I loved that. All of them were so comfortable with each other, and they were so fun and loving towards each other. My glow for Miss Bagwell was that having 26 students and still having time for each and every single one of them was incredible. She gave each student a chance to share their work or their writing or what was going on in their week. And that was great for having that many students, and she still made time for all of them. I loved it. I honestly did not have a grow for Miss Bagwell. She was an incredible teacher, and she had an incredible class, so there wasn't much to, I guess, critique on her part. I didn't have anything for that. My last observation was at the exceptional school in Cabot, and it was with Miss Laura and Miss Carrie, and they had 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds in their class. I loved this classroom. It was great. I loved the students. I loved the teachers. Everything about it was incredible. My glow for Miss Laura and Miss Carrie was that they were so warm and kind to their students no matter what happened. No matter how frustrated they got, they were patient and they were kind. And Miss Carrie had several songs. I mean, they were singing, I think, the whole time I was in there. But it helped them learn, so more power to them, honestly. That was my glow, I think, was that they took their previous knowledge and things that they had learned as teachers to help to aid these students in their education. And if it's by a song, that's great. If it's by hands-on activities, even better. And that's what they did the whole time, and it really helped these students. My grow, I think, was that they could have been more organized. There were a few sections in the classroom that were a little scary to me, I think, and they definitely should have. I think they were working on it, but it could have been more organized and well put together than what it was, the classroom. Another grow was that there was one student in there, and I'm not sure if it was because he just liked to irritate the teachers, but there was one thing in that hour, the student was being disruptive, and Miss Carrie, she kind of lashed out at him and yelled at him. And he started crying, and he got sent to the principal, I think the principal administrator of the school. And you could tell that he was really upset, and I'm not sure if it was because he was getting in trouble or the fact that he just got yelled at, but I think that definitely should be fixed. I don't think that a student deserves to be lashed out at like he was, and yeah, that should never happen how it did. But overall, they were very kind, but forceful, and I think that they have to be. But anyways, that's my observations for Miss Vaughan's Exceptional Children class. I really enjoyed all of my observations, and I know that I can go to these teachers if I ever need anything. So thanks. Bye.